All right, stop what you're doing for a second. Just notice that you're here, listening. There's a voice in your head. Maybe it's mine. Maybe it's yours reading alone, but you're aware of it. You're aware of the fact that you're aware. That is consciousness. It's the strangest thing in the world, because it's the only thing you've ever truly known. And yet you have no clue where it actually comes from. We can build rockets, split atoms, decode DNA, but we still can't explain why you experience being you. Scientists call this the hard problem of consciousness. The easy problems are mechanical. How your eyes detect light, how neurons send signals, how your brain processes sound waves. But the hard problem is, how does all that electrical activity in your brain translate into the warm, raw, personal feeling of being alive? Let me give you an example. Imagine the color red. Easy, right? You can picture it in your mind. But here's the catch. No amount of brain scanning will ever let me see your red. I can measure your brain activity, but I'll never know if your red is my red, or if it's something completely alien to me. That unique, subjective quality of experience is called qualia. Here's another mind bender, the philosophical zombie. It's a being that looks and acts exactly like you. Same brain activity, same reactions, but inside, nothing, no awareness. They smile, they laugh, they say they feel joy or pain, but they don't actually feel anything. And the scary part, you'd never be able to tell if the person next to you was one. So why do we even have consciousness? Why didn't evolution just give us perfect unconscious survival machines? One theory says consciousness is a survival advantage. Being aware lets you imagine the future, run simulations in your mind, make decisions before danger hits. Our ancestors who could picture the tiger before it jumped out, lived longer. Another theory says it's about social awareness. If you know yourself, you can imagine what others are thinking, which makes you better at reading faces, predicting behavior, and building trust. It's like evolution gave us a built-in mind-reading tool. But then there's the hardcore materialist view, maybe. Consciousness is just an illusion. Your brain's just processing inputs and outputs like a computer, and it creates a fake sense of self as a kind of user interface. The you think you are is just a mental trick. On the opposite end, there's panpsychism, the idea that consciousness isn't produced by the brain at all. Instead, it's a fundamental property of the universe, like gravity. Your brain isn't making consciousness. It's tuning into it, which means in some way, everything has some level of awareness, from cats and dolphins, all the way down to rocks and atoms. Now, before you dismiss that as hippie nonsense, here's something weird. In quantum physics, reality changes depending on whether it's being observed. The famous double-slit experiment shows particles behaving differently when measured, as if the act of observation itself is part of reality's code, which begs the question, who or what is doing the observing? Let's take a stranger turn. What if we're living in a simulation? In that case, consciousness might be the player behind the character. Your body is your avatar, your brain is the console, and your mind is the person holding the controller. When you die, maybe you don't vanish, you just log out. and possibly log back in somewhere else. Then there's the psychedelic question. People who take substances like psilocybin or DMT often report the same thing. They feel like they've stepped outside themselves, like their mind has merged with something infinitely bigger. And here's the twist. Brain scans show that during these experiences, the brain actually slows down. It's almost like the brain is a filter, and when you turn that filter down, you let more reality in. Meditation can do something similar. Monks who've trained for decades claim they can go beyond thoughts, beyond identity, into a state of pure awareness. No past, no future, no me or you. Just being. If that's true, maybe consciousness isn't inside you at all. Maybe you're inside it. But the thing that really shakes science? Near-death experiences. People whose brains have flatlined, no measurable activity, still come back with stories, floating above their body, seeing light, meeting people who've passed away, even reliving their entire life in an instant. If those reports are real, then the idea that consciousness ends when the brain stops might be completely wrong. Here's a thought that might keep you up tonight. What if your sense of self, your name, your memories, your identity is just the story consciousness is telling itself right now? And when that story ends, the awareness doesn't go away. It just shifts into a new one. This is where ancient philosophy starts to sound oddly modern. Hinduism, Buddhism, mystical Christianity, all in their own way suggest that what you really are is not the body, not the mind, but the witness behind it, the thing that's been there since your first breath and will be there after your last. Now here's the paradox. We might never be able to prove any of this. Consciousness can't be dissected in a lab like a frog. You can't point to awareness. You can only be aware. And maybe that's the whole point. Because if consciousness is fundamental, then the mystery isn't something we're supposed to solve like a math problem. Maybe the mystery is the experience. So I'll end with this. What if consciousness isn't something you have, but something you are? And if that's true, then maybe the universe itself is awake, and you're one of the ways it's looking at itself.